Hello, my friends. Welcome to the Bradley J. Show. Fifth day in a row. I told you, folks, I was going to be doing it every day, just like a professional radio show, and so far it's true. So far I've had guests every day. That won't always be the case. Sometimes I'll just have stuff I want to say. But today I have a wonderful guest, Bill Bregoli, who I knew working at WBCN. He worked with Charles Laquadera, and he may have worked on his own there as well. I can't be sure. We'll find that out. But also went on to a massive career at CBS Radio and at Westwood One Radio Network. The reason Bill's here is he has interviewed a lot of people and has some cool stories. And we love stories here. So, Bill, how do you do?
Hi, Bradley. It's nice to talk to you again.
And you have lived in Astoria, Queens for a long, long time.
25 years.
In the same, right in that apartment right there.
In the apartment you can see behind me.
And you have a good setup. A lot of people do not have their online presence tight like you. You know, you have pretty good lighting, you have a good background, and you have good sound.
Oh, cool.
Any advice to other people, like how to make it work? I will tell everybody, make sure you're hardwired if possible. Don't use the wireless. If you can hardwire it in, that makes a huge difference. And lighting is key. Do a little practice ahead of time to see how you look. Right, Bill?
Right.
It's important these days. It's the only face that people are going to see. It's how people are going to know you. It's worth a little effort, right?
That's right. And as radio people, it wasn't always our most important thing, but we learned.
That's right. It is kind of weird that as time goes on, radio went away, but now we're all visual now. It's kind of interesting. So as not to disappoint, let's get right to the guests. We're going to hear, right to the stories about people that Bill interviewed. He did talk to O.J. Simpson. He did get his first celebrity kiss. I don't think I only had one celebrity kiss, and it's a good one. And I have a photo of it. I have the photo of the actual kiss. And one celebrity tried to fix you up with another celebrity, and you were involved with an exorcism that also involved a celebrity, and you have a little bit of memorabilia that goes along with that.
There we go.
We'll save that.
Okay. Sorry.
The little tease. So I'm interested to get right to OJ.
Yeah.
OJ face. So tell us the story of your time with OJ.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. It happened in the year 2000. So he had already been or gotten off with the trial and declared innocent. And he was plugging something called askoj.com. There was a website that it was set up for him. And he came in to talk to various stations on our satellite hookup at Westwood One. And I was told to get him through the building. I had to go to the front door, bring him in, and I found a hallway that wasn't used too often that could be kind of quiet and get him down that hall.
May I interject a question?
Yeah, sure.
Get him through the building, meaning get him through the building
through best security, because CBS is tough with security.
Okay, and to minimize contact with other people, kind of?
Yeah, just
to secret him through the building?
Yeah, and part of that reason was we were on a strict timeline with him, so we couldn't be delayed.
Okay.
But as I brought him through, I told the security guard, I'm bringing O.J. Simpson through. We got to do this real quick, so don't ask for his ID or anything like that, like they usually do. And I got him through the front lobby, and he ran into a sportscaster he knew.
Yeah.
And started talking to the sportscaster, and heads were snapping. People, the jig was up. Everybody knew he was in the building, but I managed to get him into the studio, and he talked to people. He was pretty good. A little controlling, though. He noticed that everybody was posing for pictures with him except me. So he said, Bill, come here. And there's this very scary photo that I took off of Facebook of the two of us. And what's interesting about it is his head is like 1.5 times my head. And people have seen the photograph, thought I photoshopped it or something, and I didn't. Guy has a really big head.
Is it larger than it seems like it should be for his body? Because he probably has a big body too.
Yeah, he does, though. That's the thing. He's like 6'2" or something. He was a good sized guy.
Was he weird?
Just as I said, kind of controlling.
Controlling.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Did you get his?
Did I get his autograph? No, but I do have a picture.
Oh, and then you interviewed him, or somebody else interviewed him?
No, other radio stations interviewed him. You know how they do the 10-minute blocks and.
Yes, I
You
do.
did,
All
Joe
right,
Bilbo.
let's go to
Yeah,
your
so we did that thing.
celebrity kiss.
Ah, okay. Do you remember Raging Bull? It was a husky-voiced blonde, Kathy Moriarty.
No, but I'll go watch it now because I want to know
Yeah, she
who
was
you
a very
kissed.
husky voice, really very lovely lady, and she was what you call a favor interview because she was in a movie called Casper the Ghost with Christina Ricci,
Okay.
and everybody wanted to interview Christina, and the publicist said, "Could you please interview Kathy Moriarty
Right.
because no one wants to talk to her?" And I said, "Of course," and we got along like house on fire, and
You
very
got
nice.
along like a house on
On
fire.
fire. We
Did you
did.
feel? Did you feel like it went beyond just chemistry?
Not really, but
chemistry of interview. Maybe there's something here.
no, it was mostly she was kind of flirtatious. She was very nice. She said, "I ought to fix you up with my sister." On second thought, I ought to fix you up with myself.
That's pretty flirtatious. Now,
Yeah.
did you take it as this is for real? I'm going to ask her out.
No, actually, she got married like 2 years later. So, and I met the husband, very nice guy. She owns a pizza shop upstate New York.
All right, so bring it down to slow motion, granular. The kiss.
Oh, the kiss was just actually it was a goodbye kiss on the lips,
On the
but
lips.
no tongue.
No. Jesus. TMI, baby. Okay.
Yeah. I had
No
another
tongue.
celebrity kiss though on the cheek with Linda Hamilton.
Who's she?
Remember from Terminator?
Okay.
Connor?
Yeah.
She had great arms.
Yeah. Yeah. How did that take place? A celebrity kiss on the lips. That's more. You have 100% more celebrity kisses than I. And
Yeah.
more lips. I had one on the lips.
Well, yeah, Linda was on the cheek, but it was in front at CBS. Her limousine was delayed, so the publicist went to wrangle that, and we were just stuck making small talk. I had already interviewed her, and I was talking about dating in your 50s and how difficult that is, and I was talking about my ex-wife, and she was talking about her ex-husband, and eventually I realized her ex-husband is James Cameron.
Wow.
So she was talking about him,
Jeez.
and but we got along very nice, and I got a little smack on the cheek.
That is very nice. Hey, before I forget, you have interviewed a lot of people. You're a pro. And with now everyone having podcasts and all, there's a lot of interviewing going on, and a lot of it sucks. Do you have any professional advice for people who interview people?
There's an old saying that you treat regular people like famous people, and you treat famous people like regular people.
Okay.
And that kind of works.
I like that.
Yeah. Don't make a big fuss. Realize that they're probably having a really busy day,
Yeah.
and just be real.
Yeah, I like that. I try to put myself in their place and try to think of the actual hassles they're experiencing. Like what's their day like? I interviewed a lot of bands, so a lot of bands you interview them at noon. They've been up all night because they played till 12,
Yeah.
and I always cognizant of what are the questions that probably get asked so over and over and over, and I try to avoid those questions. And I would write down questions a lot. Maybe other people don't, but it's important to me to be hyper prepared because, as you know, if you're really prepared, you don't need the preparation. Turns out usually you can throw the paper away. But if you don't prepare, for me, if I don't prepare, I don't do as good a job unless I happen to have some wonderful chemistry with the person. But if not, sometimes I would get a bit struggly, and I don't like that. I like to be prepared.
Yeah, it's good to have the piece of paper in front of you just in case. And as you said, sometimes you don't look at it at all, but it's just kind of like a little comfort zone.
For me, the act of writing it down kind of imprints it on my brain. And while you're answering one question, you can kind of glance down and just see a couple more questions. Hopefully, you'll be able. Oh, and here's the other thing: listen to what they say.
Yes,
Listen to what they say. Just listen. And if you're listening, probably you won't need to use any of your questions at all. You have them if you need them. But if you're listening, whatever natural question pops up in your head as a result of listening.
Yeah, then it becomes a conversation, which is cool.
All right. By the way, this episode is brought to you by Rick Walker's Rock and Roll Cowboy Clothes since 1932. New and vintage rock T-shirts. jewelry, leather jackets, including Vance and Leathers, 306 Newbury Street, Back Bay, Boston. And now, speaking of T-shirts, let's transition to your next
Okay.
interesting situation. You were involved with the father Guido Sarducci,
That's right.
and you have the T-shirt to prove it. So tell that whole story.
Yeah.
that.
Let me see. There it is.
Look at
Almost
that.
30 years, just over 30 years ago. The
So that's a 30-year-old T-shirt. That's got to be worth some money.
I wonder how many, not that many were printed up.
Okay. So tell the story. A lot of
Sure.
people don't know who Father Guido Sarducci is. Probably only maybe 1%, maybe
Well,
1% of
yeah.
the United States population, even less of the world population. Fewer, less, I guess. Who was Father Guido Sarducci, and how did you interface with the father?
Well, he was a writer on Saturday Night Live in the early days, in the Chevy Chase kind of days. And he had a character called Father Guido Sarducci. His real name was Don Novello. And like me, he was half Italian and half Irish, and he's from Cleveland. But he had this Italian character. He put on a kind of a phony Italian accent, wore a big brimmed hat and a black coat, and said that he was a correspondent for the Vatican newspaper.
Mm-hmm.
And that was his shtick. And he had very gentle but nice jokes about Catholicism.
Mm-hmm.
And he was sort of a hit on the show, just a recurring character. And
He
had
smoked cigarettes.
Yeah, he did.
On the show.
Yeah,
Right?
that's right.
That was the thing. That was no big deal then. All right, go ahead.
Yeah, and he had. Let me see. Well, let me go back to 1991. The Red Sox were playing bad, and as you remember, WBCN was right behind Fenway Park. I mean, foul balls would end up in the driveway.
Yes, and I could work on my car by the light of the Fenway Park lights late at night, and it was really something. You could hear the roar of the crowd. You could smell the food from the garage door of BCN. It was
That's
really
right.
something.
It's really, they plunked a stadium right down in the middle of a city. It's really cool. And 1991, the Sox were playing badly, and the station had gotten a hold of a coffin and paraded it around and got some publicity because they were burying the Red Sox symbolically, I guess. In 1992, they were still playing badly. And I think it was Tank, the sportscaster, who suggested, well, let's do an exorcism this year.
The late great Tank.
That late great Tank, a fun guy. And we were calling every hippie priest we knew, and they all refused to take part in the exorcism. But a few weeks earlier, I had met Don Novello, had come through Boston on a comedy tour. And a friend whom you know, Dia Stein, needed his home phone number so she could do an interview with him. So I asked him for that. And I hung on to his phone number after he had left. I don't never throw anything away. And when we were talking about the fact that we couldn't find a priest, I bragged that I had his home phone number. And Oedipus, the program director, said, call him. Tell him we'll fly him out.
That's
Of course,
cool.
that famous line, we can't pay him, but we'll make
Right.
it worth his while.
Yeah.
And he was plugging a book at the time. So I got him some book signings. I booked him on, remember Tom Bergeron, before he got really famous, had a show on WBZ called People Are Talking.
Mm-hmm.
And I got him on that show. So it was kind of worth his while. And then he did the exorcism. If you go to YouTube and put in 1992 exorcism of Fenway Park, you'll see how WBZ Channel 4 covered it at the time.
That is cool.
Yeah.
And he came and you interacted with him, and
Yeah, he was a really nice guy. And after the exorcism, we actually had tickets to the ball game, and people recognized him and started chanting Guido, Guido.
So Mark Parento must have been involved with this because he was the comedy
Yeah, he was a comedy guy in
kingpin at the time.
show.
And did Guido Sarducci go on Mark's show? Was that it?
No, he didn't. Actually, he did. I'm not sure when, but the exorcism itself was broadcast on Charles' show.
Okay.
Yeah, and but I'm pretty sure he guessed it with Mark. Then we went to the ball game. We kind of delayed the game because people were chanting and the players had no idea what was going on. So we decided to leave. And as we were leaving, security guards were coming to kick us out.
Wow. Hey, a lot of people, a surprising number of people, are still around and still connected to me by online here, who remember WBCN fondly, and of course remember Charles Laquadera and the Big Mattress and all that.
Yeah.
And you worked in that eye of that hurricane.
Yeah, I sure did.
Well,
I should tell you,
tell
actually, it's an interesting story how I wound up on the show.
Tell that story.
I worked in advertising. I worked for, you probably remember the agency Allied Advertising in Boston.
Yeah.
They had a lot of movie clients. I used to put critics' quotes in the movie ads, strip them in back in the days of pay stub. And I was getting bored because it wasn't that creative work. Most of the work was already done in Hollywood. And I did an ad parody that ran in the National Lampoon magazine. A friend of a friend got me through the guard at National Lampoon. And it was called the Serial Killer Bowl Collection. It looked like one of those Franklin Mint ads.
Mm-hmm.
The serial killer faces in cereal bowls.
I get it.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. And so that was you? You wrote that?
I wrote that. I did that. I because I was in advertising, a friend was doing a catalog shoot, so I made some bowls, put serial killer faces in the bowls, and we shot it, and it looked like a real ad.
How old were you then?
Oh, I was in my 30s, late 30s, 35.
Oh, so
Yeah.
you were a young man at the time.
I was a young fella. This happened in 1990. So when the magazine came out on the newsstands, Charles Laquadera talked about it on the air and said it was a cool piece. And I wrote him a thank you note because I'm very polite. I was smart enough to put my phone number on the thank you note. And he called me up, said, come write jokes for my show.
So were you good at it?
I did a lot of Michigas segments, and I also got into production. And Tank and I would go out in the front of the studio, remember, and do little man in the street segments and that sort of thing, talking to people as they pass by every Friday.
Man, that was such a good time for everybody. And you, and in the morning, of course, that was my interaction with the morning was like this. I'm getting some sort of feedback there. Interesting. You getting a buzzing? Can you hear a buzz? Huh. I don't know where it came from. Sorry, folks. You hear that, Bill? I've lost your sound. Just jiggle your machine. I'll jiggle mine. Huh. Check 1, 2. So I muted your mic and it went away, so it's on your end. It sounds like we need an engineer. There we go.
Okay.
What was it?
My soundboard.
Okay. Whew. The stories were getting good. So here's my interaction with Charles, and I guess this would mean my interaction with you. When I first started out, did the overnight, and then as the morning crew would come filtering in, they'd be all busy doing very busy, a hive of activity, and the busyness would increase and increase and increase, and then Charles would come on, and it would be a big deal. And the other thing was later on, I did the midday. I was Bradley J. King of midday, and I got to do Michigas and everything, which was a huge. Being part of that was massive.
That was crazy. Actually, I have a celebrity story about Michigas involving Julia Child.
All right.
Yeah, she was a Michigas guest on the phone, and my job was to call her first and talk to her about what she was promoting so I could write questions for Charles when she went on the air.
Yep.
And one of the questions I wrote is, what do you use your microwave oven for? I thought,
okay,
great cook like that, what's she doing with a microwave? And Charles hated the question. He said, no, it's a terrible question. But the interview went really quickly, and he ran out of questions, so he had to ask that. And she said, well, sometimes when the newspaper boy delivers the paper and it's all wet, I put it in the microwave.
Really? It turned out your question was good.
Yeah.
And so you wrote for Charles, you wrote jokes, and you wrote Michigas as well.
That's right. Did song parodies.
What was the pressure like? I think there must have been a lot of pressure.
There was a lot of pressure. And I don't know if you remember, we used to go on the air at 6 o'clock every
Yeah.
morning.
Hmm.
And then some sort of surveys told Oedipus that people were driving to work earlier. So we had to go on the air at 5:30.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
And we would eat lunch at 7 o'clock. I remember we would get restaurants to come feed us in exchange
yeah,
for being on the air. And we told them, don't feed us breakfast. We're already ready for lunch at 7 a.m.
right. That's true. So it would be lunchy kind of stuff. These hot, what do you call them? Steam pans filled with
Right.
filled with good food.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
guys had it going on.
We ate very well. That was a good part about the show.
So you'd have to come in and write jokes. You'd come
Right.
in and you'd have to start being funny on demand right away. I don't see how that's possible. I don't. Writing like that is such an art, such a craft. It's
Yeah. Well, Mission Gas had a
amazing
certain
to me.
format that you could kind of plug jokes into that made it a bit easier. What was fun, the funnest day was the day after Pee Wee Herman got arrested.
Okay.
Remember, for exposing himself in a movie theater. And that was the news broke on a Sunday. So the show wasn't on the air that day. I was home and I got I rented a bunch of Pee Wee Herman movies and picked little sound bites off the movies to use as what we call drop-ins.
Right.
Pee Wee saying things like, I'm a
What?
mysterious man. You don't know about my past and that sort of thing. And it all was so ironic and it worked great. We had a ball.
Poor Pee Wee Herman, right? I mean,
Oh.
he was doing dirty stuff in a dirty stuff movie theater, and he got
Career death right there.
career instant death, especially because he was kind of associated with that weird kid
Yeah,
show.
very innocent kind of Yeah, Pee Wee's Playhouse.
Right. Okay. Let's see. Other stories. Did we talk about one celebrity trying to fix you up with another celebrity yet?
Yeah, do you remember the Ed Sullivan Show?
Cool. Yes.
Okay, I know we're going way back. There was a comedy team called Stiller and Mira,
Yeah.
and Jerry Stiller and Ann Mira, his
Yeah.
wife. Well, Ann was in a movie with Parker Posey called The Out of Towners, and I had to interview the two of them at once. And I was setting up my DAT tape machine. That's how long ago this was,
Right.
and trying to be very charming. And Ann Mira turned to Parker Posey and said, "Isn't this the kind of guy you want to go out with?"
Right.
And Parker's face turned red, and she said, "I'm kind of swearing off dating right now."
So you
but-
didn't ask her out?
I didn't ask her out, but it was very nice of Ann Mira to try. And I told her son, Ben Stiller, and he said, "Yeah, that sounds like my mom."
Did you ever actually ask out a celebrity? Did you ever screw up your
No.
courage and ask somebody out?
No, they're all going out with people anyway. I mean, my
You can't
celebrity.
assume that. You cannot assume that. That's one of the fatal flaws
Yeah, I
that
guess.
men make. Well, she's so attractive. She must be going out with somebody. You need to ask anyway.
Yeah,
I
you're
did
right.
ask somebody out. I asked out Courtney Love.
Oh, wow.
Believe it or not. It was an interview at the Orpheum Theater. It got done. It was supper time, and I said, what are you doing for dinner? She goes, "Are you asking me out?" I said, "Yep." And she said, "Oh, that's so cool. I have to do sound check now." Whether or not she would have gone if there were no sound check, I don't know. But at least she didn't laugh or insult me
Oh,
or
nice.
point and say, "What are you, crazy? You idiot?" Which was a risk. She was very kind and let me off the hook very nicely.
Yeah. Morgan Freeman suggested we have drinks together once.
Did you?
He had a full day of interviews, but he said, "You and I should talk over a beer sometime." And unfortunately, it never happened. But if I ever meet him again, I'm going to hold him to it.
Okay. Is there anything else we didn't cover? Oh, yes. Let's finish up with your good friend. You had a good friend that passed on, and
Yeah, sadly.
you can give some insight into him because I think he was malunderstood.
Yes, he was an enigma. Yeah, Gilbert Gottfried. I got to know him because he would come into where I worked at Westwood One. He was friends with my boss, Thea Stein. He was friends with her. And he would come and basically take all the magazines that we got for free. Remember, in those days, we got a lot of magazines, People Magazine, I got that sort of stuff, and Entertainment Weekly, and that sort of stuff. And they were just sitting around for us to read whenever we had time. Well, he knew we got them for free. Also, in the same building as us was DC Comics, and he would go up there and get free comic books from them because he was incredibly cheap. when it came to money. And we got to know each other very well. And I would go to screenings with him. We would watch movies together. We got to be good friends on the phone a lot. And I mean, he was so quick. Let me see. Oh, one day, fairly recently, my mother had passed away, and I was talking to him about that, and we were yakking away. And suddenly we both realized that we had to get off the phone. And I said, yeah, I got to get off. And all the time we've been talking, I probably lost 2 more relatives. And Gilbert says, do you want me to stay on the line?
Oh, very funny.
Yeah.
And when did he pass? How long ago?
He passed on April 12th of this year. He had
Wow.
he had a heart condition he never talked about. I always knew he was ill, but he didn't go into personal stuff. And I think we got along well because he knew that. He would volunteer stuff once in a while, but he felt comfortable with me.
And then it was sudden, and one day he just didn't come down to breakfast.
Something like that. He was kind of sick. We were out of touch because he was sick. I think he might have been in the hospital for a short amount of time.
Oh, I see. So, how's life in Astoria?
It's pretty cool.
Post-pandemic. How was pandemic for you?
Pandemic was tough because this area of Queens was like the epicenter of the epicenter.
I see.
Yeah, it was
Did you
tough.
get it?
No, I never did. I live alone, and you never catch anything when you live alone.
Maybe not. How many vaccinations have you had?
I think 4 now.
All of them? Yeah.
I
Did
got
you get
them
the new
all.
Omicron one yet?
Yeah, I got the new improved super booster,
All right.
and then I got a flu shot.
It's really a pleasure to speak to you. This is the most we've ever spoken. Even when I worked with you, we didn't speak this much because you were
Busy.
always busy.
Yeah.
And we have a common colleague and friend, Melissa Max, who's now a mindfulness coach, among other things. And she reminded me about you, and I said, yeah, I would love to talk to Bill. So thank you very much, everyone. Please, if you like this, subscribe, share. You know what to do. You know how to help me out. I do this for free, pretty much. So help me out. And Bill, anytime anything else pops up that's interesting, you let me know.
I will, absolutely. This was fun.
All right. Take care. Bill Bregoli, from WBCN and from CBS Radio and Westwood One Radio Network. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.